You're listening to Over the Top Radio on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Over the Top Radio. I'm your host, Ed, in San Antonio, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. She is the Heart of Shimmer champion, Nicole Savoy. How's it going, Nicole?
Going good. Just can't wait to return back to the ring.
Speaking of which, can you give everyone an update on your injury that's kept you out of the ring for the past few months?
Well, recovery is going good. I mean, I had like a minor setback a few weeks ago when they cleared me to run. Otherwise, it didn't set me back too much. They told me I'll still be able to return to the ring hopefully by June.
By June? So are you? I thought you had plans to start back at the Mania Shimmer show, so I guess that's been pushed back?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sucks. I was kind of hoping to see you. Are you still going to be there? It turns out you're an awesome manager, as we found out at the last Shimmer tapings. Will you be there harassing the fans as you were at Shimmer?
I'm not sure yet. That's definitely up to the Shimmer executives and stuff. But if I'm there, I'll be there to harass everybody from ringside.
Can you tell everyone what exactly was the injury and how it went about happening?
Okay, so I tore my ACL. I tore it doing a wrestling drill where there were 4 people in the ring. Each person hits the ropes, and then you stop yourself in the middle. So the side that I had basically hit didn't give way, and as I stepped off, my knee popped out of place. And the pop was so loud that one of the trainers at ringside actually told me to get out of the ring. And then they looked at my knee, and it was really swollen, and it was very painful. And then they had me do some tests, like I had to do body squats, and I had to run from one side of the ring to the other. And I did the body squats okay, but as far as running, my knee just kept giving out.
Now, when you had announced the injury, it was right after you participated in the tryout for the WWE and NXT. Did this actually happen at the tryout?
It did.
Okay. Well, at least you were around, where they have the medical facilities and trainers and everything, and not just, at the gym. So I guess that's kind of good. I mean, it could have been worse, thinking that you're not as hurt as you are, maybe continuing to do what you were doing.
No, I wanted to, but I trusted the trainers and the physical therapists and everything, and I trusted their word, and I didn't want to make it worse than it already was. So, it's unfortunate, but like I've been saying on my social media, the knee injury actually came more as a blessing than a curse. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's good that you're on your way to recovery and your future is looking bright. I start off the interviews with pretty much the same question, and that is basically, how did you get into this crazy world of pro wrestling?
Well, when I first got into it, I actually really wasn't a pro wrestling fan. Me and my brother, we used to tease my sister about pro wrestling because she's actually the huge fan in the family. She would watch Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and stuff, and we would tease her. We would tell her, like, oh, my God, pro wrestling's so fake. Why are you watching it? And, she still continued to watch it. And then just one day I came home from school, and she was watching wrestling, and then I saw that women did it, and I was like, oh, man, women are taking hits like the men are. And, Jesus Christ, they're taking them like professional football players. So I definitely got into it from there, and the rest has been history.
Which women wrestlers would this be? Would this be like the Trish Lita era, or?
It was. It was actually the era where it was Trish Stratus was still a manager for TNA or Test and Albert, and then Lita was still a manager. And it was, I don't remember, but I think it was either Ivory or Jacqueline. They were the women's champion at the time.
Yeah, I remember Ivory had a good run as champion. I remember she had this crazy out of the ring, no rules brawl with I can't even think of who she wrestled. It's been so long ago, but yeah, I used to love Ivory. I've been watching Ivory back when she was in Glow, which is, some people say, a forerunner to Shimmer, but a lot of differences there. But she was awesome. Now, from when you became a fan of pro wrestling, how long did it take you before you decided, hey, I'm just gonna jump in the ring and take part of this?
Let's see. When I decided I wanted to be a pro wrestler, it was before I left off to the Air Force. It was, I think, back in 2003. And I remember my dad, like, asking, like, me and my siblings what we wanted to be when we were older. And I told him I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And at the time, there was, like, that stint where it was, like, Trish Stratus was apologizing to Vince McMahon, and she had to, like, take off all her clothes. So my dad's looking at this like, absolutely not. Like, my daughter's not going to be a professional wrestler. And I've kind of been, like, the rebel in the family. So, like, when my dad tells me no, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. But then it got put on hold, and I joined the Air Force, and then couldn't quite train in the Air Force because you kind of have to fill out, like, a high-risk waiver. And mine got disapproved, so I couldn't train for pro wrestling while I was in the Air Force. But when I got out in, like, 2008, I decided, you know, I'm going to call All Pro Wrestling, and then I talked to, like, Roland Alexander and them, and I didn't really quite know exactly where I wanted to go, but the people who actually, like, really got me into it were, at the time, Pink Mink Inc., which was Marcus Mack, who's the promoter of All Pro Wrestling now, MPT, and Rick Luxury. And I started off as a valet with them, and they would train me. And then eventually I ended up meeting Michael Modest, and I started my training with him.
Okay. And you posted some photos on your social media from, I guess, before your wrestling career, maybe around the start. And you've made some big changes in your physical appearance. And I have to ask, do you have the biggest biceps in the Shimmer locker room? Because you seem to be the most, as far as biceps, the most jacked women's wrestler I've ever seen.
Honestly, I think Mia Yim has me beat. I think she's more in shape and more jacked than I am. So
she has an amazing
she has a trap
back.
And everything.
Yeah, her back is like chiseled, like out of stone. That's the one thing I noticed. But did you? What made you decide to change your body? Because, like I say, you had such a different physique back then to what you have now. When did you decide to become a gym rat?
I've always kind of been a gym rat. I trained and I went to the gym, like every once in a while. But it wasn't until, like, I actually got a firsthand experience and, like, a good look of what they were doing down at, the Performance Center at NXT. And I'm like, it's an eye opener. Like I tell everybody, and I tell everybody at my school, I'm like, once you get there, you see that this is what they do. This is their job. Like, they train, like 5 to 8 hours a day, to be good at what they do. You know what I mean? And, like, it takes more than just, an hour or two at the gym and, like, an hour at, like, jiu-jitsu practice or, wrestling training to be good at your craft. And so when I got hurt, it kind of, like, on top of that, it was an eye-opener, and I decided, I want to get to the next level of my wrestling career. I want to, look like an actual, like, fighter, like, wrestler, and so I started going every day to the gym. Like, I started sitting in on, on jiu-jitsu practice and, like, just anything I could basically sit in on just to watch and stuff, like, just everything, like, from what people were, teaching me and stuff inside the gym and that training, everything, I applied that when I went to the gym. And so it went from, like, working out at the gym maybe 2 to 3 times a week to working out every day, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 hours. I would be at the gym for about 4 or 5 hours, and, that first hour was properly, like, warming up, doing resistance band stuff, doing knee rehab exercises. Like, I went into my surgery already doing physical therapy and strengthening my quads and everything, and then after the surgery, it didn't take long until basically my doctor was like, you can stop wearing the brace. Like, I think I was basically in a brace for about a good 4 days, and then the doctor was like, you can walk on your own.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember when, like, someone would tear the ACL and they'd be out for at least half a year, and you're out of your brace in 4 days. That's just amazing and stuff. But you mentioned you were training with Michael Modest, and then you talked to, like, people at Roland Alexander's school. And how long did you stay in training? Because I know that you consider yourself new to the business, even though you've been in the business for maybe close to 6 to 8 years. When, like I say, how long did it take you to train to feel that you were ready to call yourself an actual wrestler and not just like a valet or so?
Well, back in 2008, I didn't really take wrestling as serious. Like, I always tell people, like, if you would have met me back in 2008, you would have hated me. You would have been like, this dumb greenhorn rookie of a girl. I hate her so much. And, like, I mean, I still trained, but it wasn't until, I want to say, training with Michael Modis and then moving out to the East Coast. It was like a year later, training at the Gilbert School for 2 years and then coming back and then actually training with old school Oliver John that I started taking wrestling training more serious, because Oliver John, like, he didn't train you for just, like, you know, TV. He was training you for, like, the independent circuit. You know, he's like, you're going to be on the indies for a while. Like, this is what you need to do. And, like, you need to branch outside of pro wrestling and, you know, take grappling classes and, like, really, really try to understand and train and learn your craft. And so it wasn't until I met Oliver John and started training with him that I took pro wrestling seriously. So I think it was, like, probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, the West Coast scene, as far as women's wrestling, was not a very big scene. There were very few girls, it seemed like. But now it seems like there's quite a bit. Like, I know they just had the Rise and some other stuff, and that there's plenty of girls now. I just recently was at a show with here in Texas with Sage Sin, and I know a lot of the Dooms originally from California. How do you what differences do you see in the California scene now from when you started taking wrestling serious 3 or 4 years ago?
When I first started in 2008, I think there was maybe like 3 or 4 girls in SoCal and then 2 in NorCal, and then Christina Von Erie and Candice LeRae and cheerleader Melissa, you know, kind of, you know, branched outside of California. And then it, like, the women's scene went dead, and then it wasn't until, you know, 3 or 4 years ago that you had, like, Brittany Wonder, your Kikio, you know, me, Savannah Riley, and then, like, we started having these, you know, really good matches and, like, trying to, like, get women's wrestling, you know, out there in California. And then all these other girls started popping up from schools and getting into the scene. So, I mean, we have a lot of new faces on the California wrestling scene right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure that makes you happy considering you live in that area, that you didn't have to leave the area like cheerleader Melissa and Candice LeRae. But did you ever consider that before the California scene started to pick up, or did you just say, hey, I'm going to be here and make something here in the West Coast?
Well, yeah, I love California. I love the wrestling out here. But I kind of like the Midwest and East Coast scene too. Like, I say it all the time, like when I leave North Carolina, that I get on the plane kicking and screaming because I don't want to leave North Carolina. It's so beautiful out there, and, like, there's so many girls out there to wrestle. And it's, like, so many different styles and stuff, you know? So.
Yeah. Cool. So how did you go from being a California indie girl and then hooking up with Shimmer?
I had sent my stuff in, and then I think, I mean, I didn't really hear anything, and I think Bart had also sent stuff in, and then it's like one day I just got an email from Shimmer, and I was like, oh my God, like, yay, finally this happened. And so once that happened, you know, I was there for my first tapings, and I'm not gonna lie, I was shitting my pants too. So.
No, yeah, you're going from shows where maybe there's a couple or a few girls, and then all of a sudden you're in a locker room with 30 to 40 girls and legends in the business, pioneers.
Oh yeah, and, dude, like I went into the locker room and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I know who everybody here is. And, you know, it's like, I don't think no one really knew who I was. The only person I knew was Candice. That was the only person. And, I mean, I knew Mia. Like, I knew her when she first started out. But, you know, it's like, you know, she's at where she's at. You know what I mean? So it's like I knew who these people were. But, like, you know, I know she's never seen me. At the time, she never saw me wrestle. So, you know, she wasn't too familiar with everything going on with me. You know, and it's like to go from, like, being known in California and then you go to a place like Shimmer where nobody knows who you are. You weren't announced at all for Shimmer Weekend, you know, and everything. Like, it was definitely intimidating.
Who were your first matches at that first Shimmer taping?
It was Heidi Lovelace and Lufisto.
Okay. So right off the bat, they drew you in with two really good workers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Well, you mentioned earlier when you were, first getting in that everyone hated you. You can't go into the Shimmer locker room and have an attitude. So how was your attitude when you went in there? I take it you just kind of sat back and just listened to everybody and then you weren't loud like you were when you were managing this last trip.
Well, throughout the years, I've actually learned to be really humble, and like things, training in like jiu-jitsu or like, wrestling, like shoot wrestling and stuff, like you begin to realize that you're not the big dog, and that there's someone that's always better than you. So I got a better mindset and look, and take on things. So like when I was inside the Shimmer locker room, it's like, who is I to, come in with a big ego or anything? Like, these people, like these girls are just so talented and phenomenal. And it's like, I like when I first meet people, I'm very like quiet and reserved and to myself. And I was like that the entire weekend, honestly.
Now, like I say, you weren't advertised. A lot of the girls had no idea who you were. How were you treated, and did anyone just like decide that, hey, let's take this new girl under their wing, or how did the locker room treat you that first time?
They treated me great. They all were really awesome. They all gave me good advice. A lot of them watched my matches, and gave me their opinions and like what I needed to work on and stuff. And like even with Lufisto, when I wrestled with her, she after our match, she gave me a lot of feedback that I took home and worked on in wrestling training. And like even with like Heidi, like learning, like all the psychology and everything behind it, she gave me her feedback. So like everyone was real helpful for advice and feedback, and even with like wrestling gear and like, looking the part and the mannerisms and stuff. So, the locker room is great.
Cool. And when did you actually get into training BJJ?
That wasn't until about 4 years ago in jiu-jitsu. But my jiu-jitsu instructor, he gets mad at me because I won't test for belts. I just like to go in and train because it's like, I'm a pro wrestler first. So I haven't tested yet to rank up, but he's hoping that after this injury I'll come back and test for it.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did you start using the BJJ in your wrestling matches right off the bat, or did it take some time before you integrated it? Because when I describe you to people sometimes, I always kind of mention that you're kind of like the female version of Kyle O'Reilly when I watch you wrestle. And
I get that a lot.
Well, I think it's true. I mean, because you both use a lot of submission, a lot of ground game, a lot of transitions. And when did you decide that, hey, this could be cool for wrestling? This could work.
Well, I started off doing a lot of suplexes. Talk about Suplex City. Legit, it was like suplexes. That's all I wanted to do was suplexes. And then my trainer, Oliver John, was like, well, you need more than just suplexes. You need strikes and submissions and stuff, too. Like, you can't just do suplexes. You got to do other stuff, And over time, I started integrating more submissions and, like, kicks and strikes and stuff.
So basically, you went from the women version of Roderick Strong to the women version of Kyle O'Reilly.
I guess.
Cool. And now there's a lot of other women wrestlers who train BJJ or MMA, and have you rolled with any of them? One of them being your trifecta teammate in Shayna Baszler. I know Allison Kay has actually had a fight, and I know Mia Yim's just recently got into like Muay Thai. Have you ever rolled with any of the other girls, like before or after the shows?
No, I haven't yet. Shayna's the only one. And then there's the girl out here. Her name is Desi De Rata. I've rolled with her a few times.
Now, rolling with Shayna Baszler, I got to imagine that's got to be a humbling experience because you could think you're really good, and then, she's been doing this almost her whole – I mean, she's one of the pioneers of women's MMA. I mean, I'm sure you thought you were like, I know you're very humble, and I'm sure you thought you could handle yourself in the BJJ. How was it like rolling with her? I mean, I got to imagine that was kind of like, wow,
Well, so That's actually really interesting you brought that up. Like, I go down there for a weekend. This is like before the Shimmer tapings that she debuted on. And, I go out there and I train with her and Jessman and Josh Barnett. We go in the cage, and they do this drill where they sink the hooks into you and they start hammer fisting at you. And, like, you got to, like, try to escape out of it. And so, I've got Shayna and Jessman, like, hammer fisting away, like, not, like, too hard, but, like, enough to feel it. And I'm sitting there, like, how could I could never be a women's MMA fighter. Like, to be punched in the face a few times, like, no. Like, no, you know what I mean? That's why I like pro wrestling. But, like, between that and then, like, I did the catch wrestling tournament that weekend with them. And actually, Shayna was my second round. No, I didn't go into it thinking I could handle my own because I'm like, here this, like, UFC and Invicta women's MMA pioneers and like basically hand my ass to me, and she did because I tried to throw her and then she stopped me and like pinned me in 30 seconds, and then I got off the mat and was like, this has never happened in pro wrestling.
Yeah, Shayna's awesome. I remember watching her back when she would come to the well, I guess it wasn't the Octagon because it wasn't UFC, but she came to the ring with the guitar and I've been a big fan of her since way before she became a pro wrestler. But just speaking of Shayna, I have to ask this. Okay, her first Shimmer tapings would have been my second Shimmer tapings that I went to. And Shayna, she's basically, her wrestling character is basically her MMA character in a lot of ways, basically no nonsense, no bullshit, just goes in the ring, whips that ass, and then leaves. And on that first Shimmer taping, she had to wrestle Solo Darling. So I have to ask, were you sitting with her or knew her when she was told she was wrestling Solo Darling? And what was the look on her face when she had to know that she was going into a match where there was going to be a lot of comedy and a lot of stuff she wasn't used to? And do you have any insight on what she was thinking and how that match was going to go for her?
No, because I was actually trying to get in the mindset of my own match because I had, I think, what taping was. I think that was, I either had Crazy Mary Dobson, I think it was Crazy Mary that I had to wrestle. Yeah, I think that was the taping, and I was trying to get in the mindset of my own match. So I wasn't there when she was told she was wrestling Solo.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to, like, see something, like, find out. Maybe one day I'll get to interview her and find out. But when I saw what that match was, I was like, I wonder if they're testing her or if they're ribbing her. And they went out and had a great match. I mean, she responded to it in a great way because the way she responded to being smacked in the face by that tail and slowly getting angry and agitated and then grabbing the tail and putting the tail in the submission.
I thought that was great.
Oh, I fought for it big time. Yeah, that was awesome. But how did you feel being put into a stable with Shayna Baszler and then also Mercedes Martinez, who wasn't really on those tapings until the very end when she made the surprise appearance at the end and won the title? How did you feel about being put into this group, and what do you think of your partners in the group?
Well, what do I think? I'm very happy with my partners in my group. I mean, everyone's doing real good things. Shayna's over in Japan just killing it. Mercedes, of course, is killing it, here and stuff. When I found out that I was going to be in a group with Mercedes, I was very, very taken back because I've always been a fan of her work. And not going to lie, like when I first saw her when she came into the building, I had a fangirl moment, and then I was like, okay, back to being all business. and so I was really excited that she was going to, be the leader of our group. And then with Shayna, she's basically my best friend. So I was like, yeah, what better way to, who else to be in this group with, in trifecta than Shayna? I mean, we basically have experienced almost everything together, in pro wrestling. So I was happy.
That's awesome. As far as Mercedes, I've seen her. I can't say that I have seen her whole career, but I've seen her off and on for years. And at this last Shimmer tapings, after she's been in the business for so long, and I actually think she's at her all-time best right now. I think from what I saw at the Shimmer tapings, I think she's the best women's worker in the world right now.
Right, and her promos, when she, sometimes I get lost in it because I'm like, God, she's so good at what she does. Even with the match that she had with Shotzi Blackheart, at Rise too, I was like, wow, this is a really good match. Oh wait, I got to get back in character and like talk shit to people.
No. The first time. Well, actually, it wasn't the first time I met you, but the first Shimmer tapings that I went to would have been the one where they didn't have a lot of time and they didn't do the intermission at the show, and they had the intermission at like a little bar. And at that, I guess, meet and greet, you were pretty much just kind of on your own, just sitting there, just kind of chilling. And then the last Shimmer tapings, you were like, talking to everybody at the after party. It seemed like a big difference. Do you feel that you're just more comfortable now with the fans of Shimmer, or your thoughts on that?
I think just with getting injured and stuff, like it's put a lot of things in perspective, and I've kind of learned to get outside of my shell more. I mean, because before, I was a little to myself as far as like, being out with the fans and stuff. And then now I'm just like, you know what? I love everybody. Come high five me. So.
That's good. And the first time I saw you live would have been here in Austin at the Inspire Pro Wrestling.
I know, and you didn't like me.
Well, there's a lot to that, and if you want, I'll even explain it. I'm one of these people that it's like there's a movie that comes out, and every single person I meet tells me how this is the greatest movie in the world. In my head, I want to go into it and find out that it's not the greatest movie in my head. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the reasons. Okay, and then another reason was I'm friends with Mia and Leva and Solo, and I had gone to a Shine show and I got drunk and I told them, hey, I'm getting this all tickets to WrestleMania in California, and so and then to come find out that most of them weren't booked on the show, and I was begging Prazak to book Leva on the show. So anybody who was on the show that I wasn't like a big fan of, I was kind of like, man, why are they on the show and not Leva? So that kind of puts you in both categories.
Aww. So
yeah. And then in the match, and you were having a really good match with Athena, and then I think the finish got a little botched or something. So when that happened, I was like, I knew it. But since then,
I didn't think the ending was botched. I think it was honestly for me. When I go back and watch that match too, I'm like, oh my God, she's so fast, but I'm also nervous at the same time.
Now, I am a man enough to admit that since then, the next time I saw you live was the San Jose WrestleMania Shimmer show, and you wrestled a great match with Candice, and then you had you had the second best match of the show with Evie, the best match with Athena and Mia Yim. And from that match with Evie, though, which is so awesome, I was like, you know what, I'm kind of wrong about her. She is pretty badass. And then seeing you at the Shimmer and then going to the Dallas Shimmer show where you won the title and you had that incredible match with Lufisto in the first round, and then I'm like, you know what? I was dead wrong. This girl is everything everyone said she was and more. And so I'm mad enough to admit that I overreacted, and I was going in there wanting to not like you. But you have won me over, so good job on that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and but
at least you weren't like a lot of the other people that like between Dallas and then the last few Shimmer tapings, they were like, you know what, God, you're such a loudmouth, but I just want to punch you in your face. I was like, oh, okay. Let's not do that.
No, that actually made me even a bigger fan. When I saw that, how awesome you were at all the trash talking. Because, like, when I saw you in Dallas, you didn't do any trash talking. And then in San Jose, you did very little, if any. And then it seems like every time I see you, it grows and grows. And this last Shimmer tapings, I mean, you were nonstop. I mean, even Dave Meltzer was plugging how much of an awesome manager you were on the Observer.
Oh, yay. Then if Dave Meltzer says that, then that's a good thing. Because like every time I saw him at premiere, I'm like, oh my God, he's here. Oh my God, I got to. Hopefully my match goes okay.
Yeah, and then one of my marked out moments at the last Shimmer tapings was being when I was booing you, and you pretty much shut me down right away.
You know, it's crazy because, like, I have people that, like, any show that I go to, there's about one or two guys that they tell me they've been practicing their trash talking to try to outdo me. So, like, the next time I get there, they try to outdo me. No one's beat me yet, thank God. But, yeah, they practice their trash talking to see if they can, you know, shut me down. So.
I just remember booing you, and then you're like, "Is that all you got, Ed?" And then I just basically put my head down, like, "Yeah, that's all I got." But speaking of Shimmer and Trifecta, unfortunately you weren't able to wrestle. You were managing, but I thought some of the best stuff from the Shimmer taping was basically the Trifecta versus the Australian girls, and basically Kelly Skater and Shazza McKenzie, to be exact. And, you know, Kelly and Mercedes had that it was an incredible storyline that intertwined between basically all four of them, and it went throughout the tapes. I mean, that's the one thing I like about Shimmer is the storylines are just so awesome. And one of the matches was, well, two matches. They had Shayna against Shazza in a match where I think Shayna got disqualified for trying to, like, injure Shazza on the rail with the leg lock, and then they had that big brawl, and then they had the rematch. And in the rematch, like, I've always been a big fan of Shazza McKenzie, but I've always felt that she's been positioned kind of toward the middle, or maybe just was barely working her way to the middle. And in that match, that second match, it to me is like, you know, you were there, so you obviously had a hand in it, and Shayna. And to me, it's like that match made Shazza McKenzie, and you guys helped make her go from the very middle to the upper echelon of the roster in Shimmer. And what are your thoughts on that match? And do you kind of feel the same way that you guys helped elevate her to that level?
Oh, yeah, and she's also really tough. I mean, did you see the back of her head?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, my God. She's like, I'm fine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I was on one of the other sides. So basically, when she did the Hurn Karana, right when she did it, I was like, there's like a second where I'm like, something's gonna go wrong, and then you hear the thud, and then I'm like, oh God, she killed herself, and then she pops up, and she looks fine, and then you could just see the circle of blood just go from like a nickel size to just the whole back of her head looked like Ric Flair in a match. And when I came out there, I looked at Shayna in the back of mine. I'm like, what did you do? Oh, well, I still got to hit her with the title. Yeah. And then she was so happy about it, 'cause like at the after party, I'd never seen somebody so happy to almost die, it seemed like, because that thing looked gross after the staples were in it. I mean, geez, I don't think I'd want to do that. And she was just so happy about it. It was amazing.
I felt like she made me feel like I needed to buy her a beer, even though she's an enemy. I was like, you're wow. There was a lot of blood. Let me just buy you a beer.
And then the two matches with a Skater and Mercedes were incredible. And my favorite spot of the whole weekend was the finish for the first match when they went into the, I don't know exactly what it's called, but the small package, and they're rolling in the circle, switching positions.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryce is a referee, and Bryce starts to kind of run with them to keep up with them, and the next thing you know, they're lapping Bryce because they are going so fast and doing this thing so perfect. And then finally, they did the finish, and I was just like, that was the most amazing finish to a match I ever seen, and it was a small package. It was crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, going back to your career, where do you like some women's wrestlers? A lot of them, they want to make it to WWE because it's basically that's the top. That's as far as you can go. But there are other girls who kind of like, and you know what? I'm better off in Japan. I'm better off here. What's your outlook? Is WWE your main goal, or would you be happy if it never happens and you just do the indie and maybe Japan and stuff? I mean, what are your goals? In wrestling at this point?
I mean, as far as like WWE goes, I mean, if I get another opportunity to go there and try out again or whatever might, become of and stuff, I mean, I'm not opposed to saying no. I would definitely take an opportunity. But, I mean, otherwise than that, like before the tryout, I was actually really happy just wrestling on the independent circuit. I mean, I would love to go to Japan. I've expressed interest in it. So hopefully eventually down the line that happens. But, like, really it's just I would like to just keep training and getting better at what I do, and just working on, like, my promos and working on, like, my submissions and my footwork and stuff and just getting better and hopefully getting more opportunities to go and wrestle in other states and stuff. So that and more championship opportunities.
Okay. Yeah, and then, you're kind of limited. I mean, the money, the fame, but you're kind of limited. You can't really be the artist you want to be in WWE, like you can be in the indies in Japan where you have more freedom. So, now you mentioned how, like, when Shayna was kind of beating you up when you were rolling with her. So I guess that since that, do you have any aspirations to ever try yourself at a fight, or is that just, BJJ is just going to be a hobby and something you train at, and no aspirations to fight?
Nope, there is no way that I would like to go over into the professional fighting world. Don't get me wrong, like, if Dana White legit was like, hey, I will pay you, like, X amount of money to just come and do, like, a one-time fight, then I would be like, oh, hell yeah, sure, of course. But, like, otherwise than that, no, I just like training in MMA. Like, I actually fell in love with catch wrestling and stuff because of Shayna and Josh Barnett and them. I told Josh that when I'm cleared that I would like to do another catch wrestling tournament. And then I actually recently caught back up with one of the coaches that I had ran track in college with, and he was the wrestling coach, and I used to take his wrestling classes, and I told him, I was like, I would actually like to come back and, like, train under him. And he was like, well, if you want to do tournaments, I can get you in the tournaments. I was like, sweet. So I actually would like to do more tournaments outside of pro wrestling more than MMA fights.
That sounds cool. I know when Allison Kay had her MMA fight, she almost could have got hurt permanently because I think she got fish hooked in the eye in the first round, and I think, like, her eye was, like, swollen shut, but luckily she came out and choked the girl out. But I mean, it is a dangerous sport. I mean, not that wrestling isn't. I guess, you got hurt wrestling. But, yeah, I mean, that's being an actual fighter is like, anything can happen. And luckily, like I say, Allison Kay didn't lose her eye after that one fight that she had. And, hopefully, yeah.
It's just like I have a lot of friends that, they're either professional fighters or, they're fighters on, like, I guess independent level, and just seeing, like, all the things that, they do to prepare for their fights. It's like I train hard and I work hard and I'm at the gym every day, and, like, I train and try to get as much time in, and, like, I'm dieting and stuff, but, like, they are, like, dedicated and, like, hardcore about their stuff. And I like tacos and Pop-Tarts too much to just try to, get into MMA and be like, oh, I got to prepare for a fight. I got to cut this out. No. I do. I like tacos.
On the description of the show, I actually mentioned that we would probably discuss our love of tacos. And how did you get into tacos? Is there a little Latina in Nicole Savoy, or how did you discover tacos?
Well, my stepmother is Puerto Rican, but I was a huge fan of Taco Bell until I had dated a guy who is Mexican. And he was like, Taco Bell is not real tacos. Let me take you to a spot that has true, legit tacos. And there's a city called Turlock out here in California where, like, on every corner there is taco trucks. And, like, when I say legit taco trucks, like, it'll be like taco truck, like Sanchez Brothers #1. And then you go to the other side of town, it's like Sanchez Brothers #2. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, are they the same thing? And it's like, okay. But when I tried the tacos, I was like, oh, my God, these are way better than Taco Bell tacos. And then I started becoming addicted to them. And Yeah.
Yeah, I love, like, there's a taco truck that sets up shop, like, just a couple blocks from my house. So basically every Sunday, well, not every Sunday, but basically when either The Walking Dead or Games of Thrones is playing, I worked the night shift at UPS, and then after UPS, I drove the newspaper. On Sundays, we go in early to UPS, so there's a little downtime. So what I do is I rush home, I rush to the taco truck, I get about 8 or 9 tacos, the little ones, and then come in and I watch Games of Thrones or Walking Dead while I'm eating my tacos, and that's kind of like my Sunday ritual when those shows are on. And what exactly are your favorite tacos? Are you a pastor? Are you a fajita? Chicken?
I mostly stick to my carnitas and my al pastor. Like, otherwise than that, I'll just, if they don't have either, then I will just get a burrito. Like, like, I don't get me wrong, I'll take a taco, but, you know, I'd rather it be carnitas or al pastor.
Are you a flour girl or corn?
I'd probably have to say corn.
Yeah, I think corn, well, because especially with pastor, I think corn goes a little better with pastor. Now, how did you like the pastor tacos that I got from the taco shop across the street from the Logan Square Auditorium and gave you at the last Shimmer show? How were those? How did
they
you
were
enjoy
gone.
those?
I couldn't tell you because they were gone in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that place was good. I was, like, amazed. I was like, Mexican place in Chicago can't be that great. No, I'll give it a shot. And then I was like, I ate like 6 or 7 tacos before the show. It was, like, incredible. They were amazing.
I actually, like, I got Lufisto into going there. I told her, like, no, like, you have to try the food there. It's so amazing. Their tacos are amazing. Like, I discovered it when I had my first Shimmer tapings. And me and another girl, we walked across the street to it. And I was like, this can't be that good. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, my God. And so everyone I talk to, I'm like, I swear to God, if you go to the Eagles Club, you have to go to the place across the street.
Yeah, no, I highly agree with that. I mean, that was one of the best decisions I made. And I didn't even, I guess going to a couple of the tapings, I'd kind of, like, seen it, but it never really, like, snapped the, hey, I need to try this place. And then one day you kind of mentioned that there was this awesome place, and I was like, wait a minute, are you talking about Logan, or are you talking about the other venue? And then he was like, Logan. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, now I remember. And I'll definitely try that. And, yeah, they were worth it. It was me and my buddy were there, and then there was a couple other guys that were, like, getting, like, a shitload of tacos for a bunch of people in line and stuff. So I don't know their name, or else I would plug them because they were so awesome. But, yeah, right across the street, you go to Shimmer, go get some tacos.
Across from the Berwyn Eagles Club. That's all I know. They're right across the street.
Yeah, right across the street, right on the corner. And now going back to the last taping, at the after party, and you might not be able to tell the story as good because you're not drinking, but could you please tell the Jeff Cobb story that you were telling everybody at the Bruins Eagle Club?
The Jeff Cobb story?
Yeah, about him, you not knowing he was Matanza.
Oh, my God, I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Oh, wow, this is like the greatest story
I'm
ever.
sorry. I know. And the funny thing is that everyone calls me Grandma Savoy because I don't drink as much. But, like, I don't remember the story. I'm pretty sure if, like, there was a sentence, like, someone told me, like, this is what you said, it'll trigger it. But at the moment, I'm drawing a blank about the Jeff Cobb Matanza story. Oh, my God.
Well, basically, I guess you watched Lucha Underground, and he came out as Matanza, and you noticed he was doing all of Jeff's moves, and you texted
Jeff, yeah. And I was just like, Jeff, this guy is using all of your moves, and Jeff was playing along with it. And then recently, which got me really mad because I love Frozen. Did you see his Matt Riddle Frozen shirt that he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have these at PWG, where like he's the moose and then Matt Riddle is the snowman.
No,
and then it says and then it says let it bro, and then I tweeted him back and was like, I can't believe you just ruined my favorite movie.
That was funny. I actually met Jeff briefly at one of the Wrestle Circus shows, and I kind of brought up the story, and he had no clue either. So you're not the only one that freaked out about it.
It's okay. Like me and him, we both will tell people, we're like, it's okay. We get dropped on our heads for a living. We don't remember stuff. So.
Yeah, but if you were lucky enough to hear the story at the after party, it was the greatest story ever told.
I'm full of stories, crazy wrestling stories and stuff. So it's all good.
Well, if you want to share any of them right now, I was getting ready to wrap up. But if you have any crazy stories you'd like to share,
no, because they did. Well, people are just gonna have to go to like the Rise and Shimmer shows and come up to me at the after parties and listen to my stories. That way, they're people are like, let's listen to it now. But I'm like, no, you gotta, if you get a ticket, to like the upcoming Shimmer shows, whether it be in like Orlando or like back in Chicago and stuff, you go to the after party, you will hear a story.
Awesome. I will be expecting to hear some at the next Shimmer after party. Speaking of Shimmer in Rise, how was the last Rise taping? How was because I know the turnout in Chicago was great. Did they have a similar turnout? And how did everything go as far as the Rise tapings there?
It was great. Sold out. It was actually more of a turnout at the Rise 2 than it was back in Chicago. And like I had actually told Kevin, I said, just to let you know that the hardcore like AWS fans are very rowdy and they're very brutally honest. And like when they got there to Southgate, like everyone who attended the show, they were just so loud the entire time and like just all into the show.
Oh, that's great. I watched the first one. I bought the VOD of the one in Chicago, and I enjoyed it. Some of the girls were very green, but then some of the girls were actually very, very good. And it seems like some of them are making their way now, are going to be featured on the Shimmer roster now. So that's good. And it's really good for Shimmer because they right after these last tapings, they did take a hit to the roster as far as some girls getting signed. So it's actually the perfect timing because now that they need new girls, they have a place to see who's out there and what they got and if they're good enough to move up. And it's like it almost seems like it was perfect timing. So that's actually an awesome thing, and hopefully it'll continue. I interviewed Kevin not too long ago. He seemed like such an awesome guy, so I hope that this actually becomes a big part of it. I was kind of upset because I wasn't able to make the Rise tapings. I had to wait till Friday to go. But since this next Shimmer taping they're going to be on Friday, I'm actually very excited to go to the Rise and see that. So hopefully that'll be awesome, and hopefully you'll be there. If not wrestling, harassing the fans and trolling everybody. And I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome.
Well, you do know that Kevin also has the Gain show happening on March 25th, right? It's going to be both dudes and girls.
Yeah, it's guys and girls, and he's bringing in some really talented trainers to the Rise and to the Gain, and hopefully, I know he had got out of the business, but hopefully, since he's back, he seems like he's doing something that's not just going to help himself, but also help dozens, if not hundreds, in the future of people as far as training, getting a look at, getting a chance to show what they have. I mean, so I think that's a really great thing, and I hope, and like I say, he's doing a really good job on it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we've been talking for about 50 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap up. So I'd like to give you a chance to plug any of your social media or any coming appearances that you might have.
Okay, so February 25th, at the end of this month, Pro Wrestling Revolution will be featuring Ultimo Dragon. I will be there. It's going to be in San Francisco at the John O'Connell High School. I will not be at the Gain show, and I'm not sure about Rise or anything like that, but definitely for those who are interested, definitely go to those. You got Gain 1 with Soraya Knight and Ace Steel. It's March 25th. Rise 3 will be with Dr. Tom Pritchard, July 7th. And then, of course, you got the Shimmer in Orlando, which is April 1st, and then the Shimmer tapings 92 through 95 on July 8th and 9th. So that, and my social media is at Nikki M. Savo, and buy my shirts from my Pro Wrestling Tee store.
Awesome. And now, I almost forgot to ask, how did you go about meeting John LaRocca and working for him, and your thoughts on him? I think I've met him once briefly at San Jose. He's a cool guy. I know his buddy Gigi a lot better. What are your thoughts on John LaRocca?
He's a great promoter. He actually is one of the promoters out here that gave me a chance and an opportunity to showcase what I could do. on a wrestling show. He's also very, very, very passionate about women's wrestling as well. We just recently introduced a women's title to the premiere show. How I would describe premiere wrestling shows is it's more of like the shoot style type pro wrestling. So, I mean, for people who are into that, they do like the live streaming on YouTube and stuff. Like I said, he's an awesome promoter, and he loves his women's wrestling. So it's been great that he's been able to bring in women to wrestle, and we've actually been able to build a women's division.
Yeah. So the next time him and my other friends give you a hard time about how I didn't like you, make sure you tell them that you're one of my favorites now, so they'll leave you alone.
I'm still going to give everyone sass. I'm like, so this one time I did the podcast with Ed, and he still doesn't like me. I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, you've been with me on for quite a while, so I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to your daily routine. I know you're probably going to play some video games or go eat some tacos or something, so I'll let you get back to that. And I very much appreciate you doing the show, and I can't wait to see you in the future, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, definitely, and thank you for letting me come on here and talk and talk your ear off and stuff.
Oh, no problem. It was awesome. I highly enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you.
You have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Cool. Well, I think that went well, and so since I don't have none of my co-hosts on the line here, I'm going to go ahead and end the show. So thank you, everyone, for joining in, and hope you enjoyed the show. And I would play the theme music, but my computer is, frozen, and I can't end the show until I do here. So hopefully I could take care of this malfunction. Luckily, the malfunction happened after the guest was on. Usually it's before. But come on, computer. You're killing me here. Oh, man. Okay. Are we here? Come on. Work. Still? How am I going to end the show if I can't? All right, everyone. Hopefully I can end the show here pretty soon before I just totally make a total debacle of everything here.